Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Warm Toast at the Players' Cup. Today, I'm joined by Mike Barnett of Sun King Discs. How are you doing tonight, Mike?
Steve, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you.
Very nice to see you here. Thank you for calling in. And today, we're going to talk about the Players' Cup brackets, who you think is going to be the big winners in each division, in each quadrant. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask a little bit about you, why you're great, and why we should listen to your picks.
That's like a loaded question, right? I don't know if I'm great, but definitely had a lot to do with the early version of the Players' Cup, and I like where we're headed these days for sure. And I think it's on a good track. So I think given this format, a second year and a second look is extremely important.
And so perhaps you have some extra insight because you were the tournament director of the Players' Cup the first 4 years, and then you were co-TD last year.
Sure, yes. Expertise is what I'm bringing to the table. Experience, that's right.
Let's jump right to it. Starting in the PDGA quadrant, that's where the number one seed Nate Doss is. What's your most exciting Sweet 16 matchup in that quadrant?
Well, I don't know about viability. You mentioned Nate Doss, but I think a really interesting bracket would be an all Reading matchup, Jay versus Des. Maybe Nate thinks that's kind of cool too. Maybe he'll just lay down and we'll see what happens. I doubt that, but Jay and Des do the disc golf cruise with us every year. They're one of our couples, so it would be interesting to see the husband versus wife, of course.
Of course, and that is actually. I was looking at that and I was thinking if any 16 seed was going to beat a 1 seed, who would do it? And I got to say, Des has got a chance just because imagine if you're Nate and you happen to have a funky start and you're down 2 early, it might be hard to recover from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Des has got some skills. That's for sure.
Okay, so we're picking your best Sweet 16 matchup in that quadrant would be Des and Jay. That would be the match to watch.
Yeah, that's the match to watch. Yeah, to hope for too, I guess.
Now that would be Saturday morning. So what do you think Friday night would be like at the Reading house that evening?
Oh, that's a good call. Let's see. I don't know. Jay maybe trying to use some Yeti tactics. Whatever that involves. Maybe he's, rubbing some putters in her face, some Yeti putters, getting his big, getting his Yeti growl, getting that rolling.
Getting his Yeti on. Yeah.
Probably intimidation. Then Des following up with some whatever.
So let's keep it fresh and move it on. Who do you have? Actually, I should say, let's assume that Yeti and Des are in that. What is that? The Sweet 16. Who do you have moving out of that bracket?
Oh, now that's the question, huh?
Yeah.
Moving out of that bracket, I gotta give. I'm gonna stay with a Reading out of that bracket.
Okay.
And I don't know. That's a good one. I think I don't know. Maybe Des has the magic to pull it off against both, but Jay's got some unbelievable putting skills, as we know.
Absolutely. So we're just gonna write the word Reading in there and buyer beware.
Down the first initial Open.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And maybe that's what we'll name this tournament next year is the Initial Open. In the DGA quadrant, where Josh Anton, he's the overall number 4 seed. He's the number 1 seed in that quadrant. What do you have going on in the Sweet 16 there?
Again, you mentioned the top seed out of the bracket. I see a matchup maybe between two different personalities, which would be Josh Anton, and maybe George Smith. George being fairly reserved and quiet, and Josh being a pretty aggressive guy at times. His style of play, remnants of the crazy round at USDGC a couple of years ago. But both very capable of getting to that Sweet 16.
Yeah, that would be a very interesting matchup, and I didn't think about it from a personality standpoint, from a style standpoint. Assuming that Anton and Smith are going, I'm going to guess you've got Cale and Avery down there on the bottom side of that bracket.
Yeah, they're pretty safe. I can't say I'm extremely familiar with the course this year as I have been previous years due to the fact that both courses were in Florida. So that gives me a little bit of, some question marks. But yeah, that's very, very viable. Both Cale and Avery have been through this, and definitely gives them a bit of an advantage. Mm-hmm. And both have some skills, as we know, as well.
Yes, indeed, they do. So who's advancing in that quadrant, in the DGA quadrant?
I'm going to take the Texas, from what I do know, seems to have some wide open spaces. So I'm going to move Avery into that moving on bracket. He's got some power, as we all know, and that may end up playing the factor of getting him to the next level.
Absolutely. And just so you know, the course I just found out today, there are 8 par 4s and 1 par 5 and 9 par 3s. So, and there's 3 holes without a bounce.
Okay.
So it is a relatively long course. I think it's a par 64. So we'll see if that does in fact benefit Avery. So let's move up to the Disc Nation quadrant, where the overall number 2 seed Nico Locastro is the front runner. Who do you have advancing to the Sweet 16 in the Disc Nation quadrant?
Well, I've got a bit of a long shot in Steve Mills. I think Stevie's got this kind of goes a little bit against the previous bracket, the DGA bracket, and I think 2 similar styles might end up coming out of it. And I got Steve Mills and Nico. Nico's been through this. He's won lots of big events. He won last year. So I've got maybe 2 aggressive styles coming out of this and matching up in that top half of that bracket.
That's it's pretty fun that you picked Steve Mills. He's overall the 47 seed. You have him beating Adam Hunt, the overall 18 seed, and then moving on presumably to beat Nick Gagne, one of my New England fellows, overall number 15 seed. And it's interesting because I picked Steve Mills to win that first round as well. So it seems like a long shot, but apparently some people are picking him. Some people in the know. Yeah,
it just seems like just one of those first round options with him.
Yeah.
So I just think he plays aggressive, and that first round there's going to be lots of new folks to this format, and he might be able to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. On the bottom half, do you have any surprises, or are you looking at Ulibarri and McCabe to advance to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, that seems like an obvious pick, but you got Jim Oates in that top half of the bottom half. He can definitely being an out west boy along with Paul, there might be I don't want to say intimidation, but maybe some experience with Jim.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We'll see if he can adapt to the head-to-head matchup style. And then Mitch Sonderfan out of Colorado has got some game as well, and might challenge those that final Sweet 16 matchup too.
I remember last year he took Ken Climo to the 18th hole.
That's right.
So,
that's exactly right. And there was a couple matchups like that, but that one was extremely memorable. It was just kind of a what's going on kind of moment.
Right.
So, yeah, good stuff. I could see it happening again.
And we go down to the Paragon Disc Golf Quadrant, where Dave Feldberg is the number 1 seed. He's the number 3 seed overall. Who do you have advancing to the Sweet 16 there?
Well, interestingly enough, I just got back from USDGC, and one of the first times I got up to the top of the hill there, I bumped into Phil Arthur, and within seconds, Jeremy Colling was coming up and instantly said, "Hey, I got you second round in the Players Cup." I just kind of chuckled, and so apparently Phil and Jeremy Colling are planning on moving to that next bracket.
I was going to say they're counting some eggs.
They're counting some eggs. That's right. They're counting some eggs, and you know, I'm gonna say Phil snaps out of it. Because he had a first round matchup last year that didn't go as planned, and I think he wanted to play a little bit better at USDGC. So I think Phil finds the magic and moves on to face Dave.
That's I picked the exact same thing. You are clearly a wise man. Although I will say that I had Matt Hall pushing Dave Feldberg to extra holes.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Just an extra little tidbit on there. And in the bottom of the bottom.
The bottom of the bottom. I've gotten to see Paul Macbeth. Has played some tournaments here in Florida this year. A couple of my one-day events on our Tour del Sol. And Ron Converse, just a longtime favorite ever since I met him, and he had the dramatic finish with Barry at the inaugural Players Cup years ago. And so I got kind of that moving forward, but I'm going to give the edge to Paul, just playing a lot more tournaments probably than Ron has lately, and just the experience coming into it. So I'm going to give the edge there. And then that bottom one, I really got to pick Ricky. He's been playing some great golf the last month or so, 6 weeks. And so I'm gonna make it an all kids bracket down there at the bottom.
There you go. And youth is well served in this format with the number of rounds you need to play.
That's right.
If you make it to that third or fourth round and you're under 25, you have I think you have a little advantage there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of maybe a lack of fear factor too, and sometimes too you just never know who's going to really figure out the way that the matchup is working and what you've got to do to earn the point versus the strokes.
Absolutely.
And some of these guys, they've already got a year under their belt, especially some of those young guns that we picked. So, could push them. It could get them a round or two just on that.
So, your prediction: who is the final four? You've got Avery, you've got Redding, and then we didn't do the other two, the other side. So, who's on the other side?
Let's see. You're talking Disc Nation and Paragon brackets.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Nico moves on again to the Final Four. I think he picks up kind of where he left off. And in the Paragon quadrant, I'm going to say I'm going to pick Paul Macbeth to come out of that.
Very strong, very, very interesting pick right there. So who wins the whole thing? Who does Mike Barnett say wins this whole thing?
I'm going to pick let's see. I've got some interesting matchups there in that Final Four.
Yes, you do.
But I'm not going to get too crazy. I'm going to pick Nico to repeat.
That is a strong bid, and you are not alone in that bid, I am sure. So
yeah, he played. He was in complete control last year. I think the matchup, the Final Four matchup last year, early on, it was pretty even, but he ended up just pulling away. And I can definitely see that happening again this year.
It seemed like every one of his matches was 3-2 or 4-3. He was always in a comfortable position, and he clearly knows how to play. So we'll go ahead and have a little fun with this last question. If you were going to pick an upset special, you're picking a Villanova, a 1985 Wildcats. Who are we looking at is going to be our Cinderella story?
Our Cinderella story.
Who here could make a run?
I got a feeling that, we already mentioned Mitch Sonderfan. I think Mitch could, basically, if you think about it, last year, he's depending on what happens on that 18th hole, he could have been Cinderella story last year. So I'm going to give a nod to Mitch.
Yeah.
And I could see. Let me look on the left side here. I don't know, a Ken Franks or someone of that nature. Frank the Tank. So maybe coming out of the left side of the bracket and pushing up to that Final Four, even into the finals. I've seen Ken have some really hot rounds. He had one at USDGC a couple years ago. I think was leading the field after the first or second round. So
absolutely.
He's got some stuff, and he's got some game, and he's got some power.
Yeah, if his putting is on, he can beat anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mike, from Sun King Discs. Thank you for being a sponsor of the Players' Cup, and thank you for founding the Players' Cup. We owe it all to you.
Hey, good stuff. Steve, I got full trust in you. I think this is going to be a great event, and I look forward to strangely enough, watching it from my computer screen instead of being there for the first time ever.
And I look forward to next year's event when hopefully you'll be able to come back out and get your rightful seat.
All right, I can dig it.
Cool. Thank you, Mike. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks, Steve.